Hey everyone, we are so excited to be here. First off, happy Giving Tuesday. My name is Dr. Carrie Magro, a professional speaker, author, and autism self advocate. And I'm here with a very special guest, my mom. And we'll be discussing a little bit today about your questions. So feel free to, wherever you're joining us from, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, let us know a little bit about, first off, where you are tuning in from, and then also just any specific questions that you have. We're really excited to have you here today. In addition to that, I will just give a shout out that we are participating in Giving Tuesday, an annual day of giving. I have a nonprofit that has given 130 scholarships for autistic students to go to college called KFM Making a Difference, in addition to 25 small business grants, along with other disability-related initiatives. So if you would like to support us on this annual day of giving, you could go to the link in the description. In addition, on the bottom of this ticker, you could see a little thing that says KFM Making a Difference.org/donate as well. And Mom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. My name is Suzanne Mack. I'm Carrie's mom. I'm also a city planner, and we're having our holiday picture taken today. So we were all asked to wear red, and we also are supporting Giving Tuesday for many of the organizations that are in our town. So happy to be here.
Awesome. And we have a few people who are already joining us. We have Sandra from Knoxville, Tennessee. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today. Sandra, today is Giving Tuesday. So if you would consider making a donation, but also let us know what specific questions that you might have for me or my mom today. And we also have Alexis, who is joining us from New Jersey as well. Alexis, just so you know, my mom is from Jersey City, and I myself am from Hoboken as well. So we're definitely interested in hearing your questions. One of the things that we mentioned in the description today is about my journey from non-speaking to professional speaker. And the reason why we call today 31 years of autism is that I was initially diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder, and otherwise specified, when I was about 4 years old. And now today I am 35. So that's kind of just the premise of the 31 years since my initial diagnosis. So, Mom, I guess the question I have for you starting off, and we've talked a little bit about this already in previous Facebook Lives. Can you just tell us a little bit about my diagnosis and how that came about?
Well, for any of the parents out there that are getting their children diagnosed, we had that long battle of trying to figure out what was going on. Kerry was meeting most of his milestones until he was a little over 1 year old, and then he went to a daycare, and he started to have very serious problems at the daycare. He was actually frightened by a bell during October, which was the firemen. Firemen come in and try to tell the children. They have the hats on, and they try to tell the children about different things, and Kerry seemed to disintegrate on hearing that bell. It became very difficult to get him to go to the daycare center, and once he was there, it was very difficult to get him to transition out of the daycare center. And it just became more and more problematic, to the point that they asked us to have him tested to see what was going on. And then we went through several psychologists who had, varying, not familiar with autism, and had varying theories on what was going on. And finally, we put him into a program of getting him diagnosed at Hackensack Institute for Child Development in New Jersey. And it was a very lengthy process. I believe it took about 10 months. And then finally, we got the diagnosis, and it was a good diagnosis from a team staffing point of view. They did a lot of good work, but it took forever. And we took it back to his pediatrician, who was in New York City. And the pediatrician said, "Oh, nice diagnosis. Which kid is it?" Because he didn't know if it really fit Kerry. And then he sent us to Dr. Margaret Hertzik, who is the director of child psychiatry at Cornell. Dr. Hertzik met with Kerry twice over a 2-month period and was able to confirm the diagnosis. So I am always very sympathetic about the parents that are on waiting lists for months and sometimes years to get their children diagnosed. and also the gamut. You go to a good pediatrician, but they don't have familiarity with this. They send you to somebody and somebody. So my theory on all of this, and Dr. Herzig taught me it. I didn't know what autism was. I didn't know what PDD-NOS was. I didn't know what a lot of things were. I went to a local hospital and looked it up in their library and came home and still didn't know what it was. And Dr. Herzig said, don't worry, don't worry. The thing we should do is worry about what therapeutic nursery school he's going to attend. And I was like, I'm looking at the long haul. Is he going to get married? Is he going to have friends? Is he going to have speech? And Dr. Herzig said, don't worry. Just put one foot in front and deal with the present and move forward. And that's exactly what we did. So I hope that that's what you're able to do. And I hope with the help of people like Kerry and different societies that are out there and organizational groups of support groups that you are able to do that. And if you're not, come back to Kerry and Kerry can probably hook you up with some of them. Good overview?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic overview. And we actually have a few questions coming in. So Sandra writes, my grandson is 5 years old and has been nonverbal until recently. He is saying a few words. My question is, does he understand us when talking to him? So Mom, I guess just from when I was starting to say my first few words, was I cognizant of you talking to me?
Yes.
Can you
Yeah, I mean, no one can sit on this Zoom and answer a question specifically about somebody else's little boy or their grandchild with any certainty, because you have to really examine the child and observe the child. But there is nothing that I know that indicates that children do not understand. There's two things they call it. One's expressive. Kerry had expressive language delays, and he had receptive language delays. So when you talk about receptive language, can the child understand the language? And so, that would be part of your workup on the child. You would probably get some information from the doctor as part of this team staffing as to whether they have receptive language delays, which means they don't hear the words or they don't understand the words. But I will tell you, generally speaking, having spoken to hundreds of parents and hundreds of kids in all varying stages of autism or being on the spectrum, most parents and most children seem to say that they understand to some degree, in varying degree, maybe totally. They understand what their parents are saying or their caregivers are saying. They just can't express. They can't respond to the input that they're getting. And I think for a grandparent looking at the child, you should see, if does the child respond to voice? Does it know you're in the room? Do they hear you speak when you talk to them? And if they do, then I think that it would be safe to assume that the child does understand what you're saying, unless it has hearing issues. In which case that would be another story. But should be able to get some information out of your diagnosis and out of the reports
right.
that you are given.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandra, thank you so much for that question. We have some other great questions coming in. Again, everyone who's just joining us, my name is Dr. Carrie Magro. I'm here with my mom, Sue, today, answering your questions. Today's also Giving Tuesday, an annual day of giving. I have a nonprofit that supports the autism community. There will be a link in the description. If you could support or learn something new from today, we'd greatly appreciate you considering our nonprofit for your support today on Giving Tuesday. So we have another great question that came in from Alexis. Hey, Alexis. Alexis writes, my son is 3 years old and is now speaking a handful of words. I'm curious the things he likes to do, such as line up toys or play independently. Is that comforting for him? Should I leave it alone? Now, Alexis, just so you know, I had really key interests. I loved trains, like the little magnetic trains, and would love playing them for like hours on end. So as long as it's not injurious to themselves or others, but it also doesn't impact their learning, I've always been on the side that, we all have our own unique key interests. Sometimes with autism, it's a little bit more focused, but that doesn't necessarily take away from an individual's ability to reach developmental milestones, et cetera, and so forth. So, Mom, what were some things that I like to do
Yeah,
growing up?
like to follow up on that question, because I was just wondering if they were talking about you. So when you said that that's how that child was, I was saying, oh, that sounds exactly like how you were. I think it's pretty prevalent to know that children with autism tend to like rigidity. They don't like transitions, and it's very typical to have them line up their toys, line up bricks, line up this, line up that. And so everything you're saying is very typical for an autistic child. A child on the spectrum, you're just saying exactly what happens. I can tell you that I do not believe the child feels as if they're missing anything. From what I can tell, it's more that we think we have our stereotype of what we think a typical child should be doing. I know Kerry, when he was kicked out of one daycare or two daycares, one of the big comments was that he wanted to go off and play by himself. He wouldn't play with the other children, and he would line things up also. Um, as you gradually get the child introduced to playing with other children, or getting them to engage with other children, they tend to come out of that. Kerry bowled. We took him to Pee Wee bowling when he was 4 years old, and he would go every week because I wanted him to be around other children, and I really didn't have an opportunity, to have that happen because he kept getting kicked out of daycare centers. So he would go bowling with neurotypical children, the bumper bowling, and he would throw a ball, and then he would come back down and he would sit next to me as soon as he threw the ball. Well, we did that for about 35 weeks, and then every Saturday. And then the 36th week, he or somebody blew a tissue at him and he blew it back. So my theory is that you expose your children, don't force your children, expose your children to other situations where they can children, or they can have other activities. And in my mind, eventually it comes, but that will not happen for all children. But at a 3-year-old, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it.
Yes, great question, Alexis. So we have a few more questions coming in. There was a question about Giving Tuesday. So where can you donate? Yes, it's a great question. You can donate. I actually included a link in the comments. It's just kfmmakingindifference.org/donate. We actually really appreciate your support and that you're actually thinking of doing that today for Giving Tuesday. We have another great question, which it's actually something that I've dealt with challenges from before. So this is from Nunu. When could you start holding a pen, and was it a struggle? So Nunu, I actually had a lot of fine motor challenges. So I had a lot, and still to this day,
still have fine motor challenges. Sorry.
Mom, when did you initially notice that struggle, and what were some of the early things that seemed to help me?
Well, I know we're talking about holding a pen, but it's all about fine motor skills. So I used to have every toy in the world. So I had one of those toys that were like the shapeshifter, where you put the circle in the circle and you put the star in the star. And it was just terribly difficult. The big blocks you could handle, but the smaller blocks you couldn't. And I think that was before. I mean, there'd be no reason for a child to be holding a pen like at 2 years old, but maybe coloring or something like that. But, it was pretty clear on that you couldn't hold a pen. One of the things that did help is your parents can get a pen, and then they put this plastic thing on it to actually make the pen steadier and make it larger for you to grasp, and that's what helps with a lot of children. You had difficulty once you went to school, once you went to kindergarten. Obviously, then you were getting OT and PT, and they started to work with you on using a pen, but you never used a normal pen until, like, I would say you were 7 or 8 years old. It was always a pen or a pencil that had that. You can go on Amazon and just look for, pen supports or pencil supports, and they're like plastic sleeves. They look triangular that, slip onto the pen or the pencil, and then the child can actually manage that. It's just the normal size pen and pencil. It seems like the muscles in the hands are just not developed enough to actually hold a pen
Mhm.
or a pencil. But crayons are a little better because crayons are bulkier to begin with.
Right.
And
Right.
if you're looking for, a splinter skill, that's what we call things when you try to figure out a way to deal with a situation that you have to adjust to by doing a splinter, putting a splint on it. That's how an occupational therapist or physical therapist would have that tool available. They're like 15 cents. They're not like an expensive tool, but I don't know, Carrie. You'd have to tell me when do you remember holding a pen or a pencil and actually being able to manipulate it correctly?
Yeah, I mean, it was early when I remember doing script when I was about 5 years old, and the idea of just having that grip on that pencil. There are a lot of great tools out there. I would definitely recommend going to websites like fundandfunction.com that have those specific grips for the actual pencils. Also, considering pencils that are a little bit heavier, that's
Yeah.
what's actually really cool about fundandfunction.com. It helps, especially if somebody has a shaky hand, to be able to structure it a little bit better. So that's another great tip as well. So we have a
I'm
few more
also
great
looking.
questions.
Well, just before you
Oh,
get
go
off
ahead.
that one, I'm also looking. Recently, been looking. Children start out with the sippy cups with the double handles, and you find that like there's nothing wrong with keeping things that you have to look at, not what society thinks is right, what will make it easier for your child, and there are a million things very very inexpensive that you can get just to make them function easier, and that's what your goal is. And eventually if they don't need it, then it drops off. So i'm all for I'm all for early intervention. I'm all for over intervention at that age. Give them whatever they need to get them to the next step. And going back to somebody asking, does their child know what's going on when they're 3 years old? Well, Carrie, you've never told me, that this was, you told me you had a lot of problems when you were that age, but you seem to, you look where you are now, type of thing. So let's give the parents a shout out and a clap for
Yeah,
all the work, the hard work they are doing for their children.
yeah. So we have a great comment that came in from a friend of ours. Kathy Sullivan is joining us today. So hi, Kathy. Kathy is one of our friends from JCPS of Jack Burney. You must be so proud of Carrie. My great niece's son was diagnosed with autism. I've told her all about Carrie. He is nonverbal. He's 3 years old, just started school. His mom, my great niece, is a special needs teacher. She noticed signs very early. She had a speech therapist very early. His teachers said he is very intelligent. That was a great comment that came in. And we know of the Sullivans, and thank you so much for that comment. We have a message that came in just from an autism mom that said, "Thank you for this. I'll be donating $5." Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That's really, yeah. I mean, honestly, it's every little bit helps. So she says, Giving Tuesday is really important, especially after Cyber Monday. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, and I actually just some Christmas shopping for my mom on Cyber Monday, and mentioned that it's either going to be the coolest gift I've ever given her or the weirdest gift I've ever given her. So hopefully
Hmm.
she'll enjoy it. Who knows? Okay, so we have a few more questions that are coming in. Again, everyone, feel free to like this video, share this video, and comment with your questions for my mom about my autism journey. Nunu, yes, it's funandfunction.com is the website.
I
So we have
just
a
want to take a
question.
sec. I just want to take a
Sure.
second to thank Kathy Sullivan for mentioning our friend Jack Byrne. That it's always nice to have a memory. Kerry was very close to him also.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, this is a comment. We'll just throw this out there. Hey T. T writes, I want to show my 22-year-old son this video. He's finally able to discuss the past a little bit in his autism journey. It's been a lot. You guys are great. Thank you. Hope to see more of you. Yeah, so Columbus, this will be available after we go off live today. This will be on my Facebook page, Carrie's Autism Journey. So feel free to share it with your son. And if you have any questions that you would like us to help with your son, definitely feel free to write them in the comments. So we have a question that came in from Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer from Minnesota. Do you have any challenges with sleep? I have a late autism diagnosis for my son at 12. He is now and cannot sleep in his room. We're changing his bedroom around now and have removed the bed, and we are selling it up like our living room now. Don't know if it will help, but we are trying. Yeah, Jennifer. So before I have my mom answer this, about 50% of autistic children have some form of sleep-related challenges, whether they're chronic sleep challenges or they are just something involved with their sensory-related challenges. So I always recommend no liquids 2 hours before bedtime, if possible. Also considering lavender and other smells that might help put an individual in a sensory friendly environment, calming effects to it. Also consider there are some great medicines out there that could potentially help as well. Mom, in addition to a weighted blanket as well for somebody who might have specific sensory related challenges too. Mom, can you talk a little bit about my specific sleep challenges?
Yeah, I don't know how many sleep challenges you had that were any different than any kids. I do know the routine of the bedroom, whatever makes you comfortable. And I don't know if I really am a fan of weighted blankets. I think they're very heavy, but I do believe blankets do help. Regular blankets and feeling snuggle up and feeling secure. I think we'd have to find out more about this child who's 15 who can't sleep in his room. Is it something about his room? It sounds like he could sleep in the living room, but he can't sleep in the bedroom. So I'm not quite sure what triggered it. Did he used to be able to sleep in the room, and did something change, or just is his body clock off? Does he just not like to? A lot of kids don't like to sleep at night. They like to sleep during the day. It's something that's going on with them. So it would be good to hear a little bit more, maybe even if we don't get to it today, but maybe they could text you or email you and tell us a little bit more about it. Because sleeping
absolutely.
is very important. Sleeping is a very important component for all of us.
Yeah, well, 100%. Jennifer, feel free to expand on your question in the comments, and we'll try to get to it if we have time. So Kathy came in again. Kathy, that is so sweet that you are donating $50 after the first.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your support. For everyone joining us today, it's Giving Tuesday. I have a nonprofit that's given 130 scholarships for autistic students to go to college. In addition, for those joining us as well, we're doing our Autism and Sensory Friendly Santa event on December 9th. And we will be having virtual visits. So for all the families who have written in with a little one, feel free. I'll include a link in the comments so you could sign up for a virtual visit on December 9th as well. We are hosting it. Yes, I will be Santa Claus. We are hosting it in Montclair, New Jersey, for those local in New Jersey. Alexis, I know that you mentioned that you're based in New Jersey. Feel free to join us. I'll include a link for you if you would like to sign up for that. So we have a question that came in from Aria. Hey, Aria. Aria writes, my son is 7 years old and we're doing lots of ABA therapy, but still he is struggling to communicate. He says few words and we prompt him for his needs. How is Carrie's communication when he started his words?
Pretty bad. So, Kerry didn't really start speaking until close to 4. I mean, he did babble. I mean, he certainly giggled and he cried, and so he did have sound, but the words just were not coming easily. And actually, when he started to speak, I actually kept a book and wrote down every word he wrote. That he said, like juice or everything. And it seemed to me that once he got words, they came in bunches. Like it wasn't just like he said one word and then we didn't hear from him for the next month. But he seemed to. It seemed like the words were stuck in him, and once they started to come out, they came out. But it was. It's like with every other family. I mean, you're going to understand your child a lot earlier than other people because you just kind of get to know what they're about to say. But I think what you're saying, Kerry didn't have ABA. ABA wasn't popular then. I think it came up a little bit after him, a little bit like in the next decade. But the fact that he has sound and he is communicating, I'm very happy to hear that. That's very good news. It kind of makes me believe that you've crossed the Rubicon, and once they start to have speech, I believe you have something to work from. And I know there are a lot of parents whose children never speak, and they would be happy to hear that. But it sounds like you've crossed a milestone by having him now speak, and let's see what the next year gives you now that he is starting to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a few more questions coming in. Alexis, I saw that you had mentioned the Santa and your interests. That's awesome. If you would like to join us, I included a link in the comments. It's also available on your screen currently. You can feel free to sign up for a virtual Santa visit, 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, December 9th. In addition to that, for those.
Where'd you go?
Happening in. Oh, no, I'm still here.
Okay.
It's just a connection. Cornerstone Montclair in Montclair, New Jersey is where it will be held. All of the morning slots are full, but we have a few slots available in the afternoon. So feel free to check that out. Well, actually, and just for everyone joining us, we are having some technical difficulties. You gotta love technology, but we're still here, so don't worry about that. So we have this comment that came in. It's from a Facebook user. My son is autistic, diagnosed at 2.5 years of age. He has his speech therapy. We parents take OT support training to help us help him. In second grade, we homeschooled him. Last 4 months or so at home, whenever he finds free time, he goes to bed or lies on the floor away from our eyes and starts to pleasure himself. We have taught him not to do this in public. Initially, we had taught to tell him that he needs a private time in his bed for a set time limit. So one of the things that we need to have larger conversations about in our community is not only masturbation, but also reminding, and we actually have in relationship to this. So there's a workshop that we have that actually talks a little bit more about this and what are some really beneficial ways of helping with this, such as knowing the right place to masturbate, understanding the differences between public and private areas, and the importance of also understanding the challenges with chronic masturbation as well. So feel free to elaborate a little bit more on that comment, and we'll try to get back to that question later in the live. For everyone joining us again, my name is Kerry Magro, a professional speaker, author, and autism self-advocate. Feel free to like this video, share this video, and today is Giving Tuesday, an annual day of giving. We have a nonprofit that supports the autism community. If you've learned something new, we would definitely love your support to that.
Kerry, I had a question. You have webinars, right? You've like canned like self-help webinars on different topics. Is that what you're talking about? They can go to your page to find those webinars.
Yes. So we'll
Okay.
actually include a link in the comments. So for those joining us, based on my autism journey, I've done several online webinars where you could learn about a wide range of autism topics, from everything from schooling, toilet training, food aversions, romance and sexuality as well. So I'll include the link. It's just at carriemagro.com/store, but I'll also include a link in the comments. And this is kind of a great segue to Aria's question. Any food restrictions he had to improve the concentration? Mom, were there any specific foods that helped me with my concentration growing up?
No, I think for you it was food aversion. I mean, I deal with a lot of parents who tell me, a lot of children have food problems who are on the spectrum. You had food aversions. I mean, you just hated tomato sauce, you hated this, you hated that, and you just couldn't get you to eat certain things more than the normal, neurotypical child, and so therefore, you had a very picky diet. You did not have a bad reaction to food, so you were lucky that you didn't have that. But there's so much that's been done in the community on food now. There's so many good books and so many good webinars and so many good articles that can really help the parents. I know a lot of kids say that, celiac, non-gluten, different things. So I definitely think that, if the person doesn't have a good place to go from a nutrition point of view, I'm sure, Kerry, you can put them in touch with some good people that are actually working on that, who will really believe that, the diet actually impacts the child's behavior. So I think there's plenty out there now. There wasn't much research on it at your age, but there's a ton of stuff out there now that I'm sure could be helpful for them.
Yeah, yeah. And it's important for everyone here to understand that I was diagnosed in 1990. Numbers of autism were about 1 in every 1,000 diagnosed, and today autism impacts 1 in 34 in the United States. It's one of the fastest growing developmental disability. We have more resources, but we need to do more in terms of just providing supports for those who years without that proper support growing up. My parents championed many things that are put into place for students and individuals like me growing up. So it's important that we understand that autism is a lifelong challenge for some individuals, and we need to provide reliable autism resources across the lifespan. So that's really, really important. So, this is a great comment we have. Just pull it up real quick. Bianca writes, "Hi, Carrie and Sue. Greetings from
Dubai.
Bianca, funny story. We were in Dubai in April for Autism Acceptance Month. I was the keynote at the ICANN conference and had an incredible time getting the opportunity to interact with people in Dubai. We also were there several years ago at the Autism Technology Conference, also in Dubai, by one of the medical centers that was sponsoring it there. So she comments, just wanted to say thank you for everything you're doing in the autism community. Our 6-year-old son is a very picky eater. He eats like 6 things only, and he fights on introducing more food options for him. Now, Bianca, I think one of the important things is having a reward system for trying new foods. You can consider a token system, but also using the foods he really likes and introducing those foods at the same time can be really beneficial towards helping him. And just start off small. And when in doubt, especially if you go to your child's pediatrician and they suggest any vitamins that might potentially help, where they might not necessarily need to have every single vegetable in the world, that might also be helpful. Mom, anything that helped me?
I just have to laugh because the minute you were reading the question, I had exactly the same reaction. We must spend too much time together. But I was thinking that, we're big fan of token reward system. If you find bribing your child, like when they're little, find something they want or something they'd be interested in, and then reward them for taking the food. And what everybody says to me, don't do that, that's crazy. And I say, if you do it and then the child starts to like the food, then you can take away the reward system. It's easier to do that, but you have to find something to motivate children. Not that you're not trying, but you have to find something you motivate. I had a little girl the other day. She likes Toy Story, and I've been looking for something that's Toy Story for like a month or two for her, and I finally found something so that her parent, who's a special ed teacher in Jersey City, can give her child something that's Toy Story, because that's what she wants. So, but I'd be interested, maybe you could put it in the chat room or tell Carrie what kind of foods your son or daughter does like. I'd be interested in finding out what those 6 foods are. Are they in the same food group, or is it just, or are they all over the place? So if you could give me more information on that, I'll follow up with you by email.
Yeah. And just so you know, I also have a webinar called What Happens to when somebody says a child with autism will eat when they're hungry, which talks about food aversions and some practical tips that might be able to help you as well. Because we also have to remember that there are some individuals who might have food aversions simply because of underlying food allergies, gastrointestinal issues, as well as
texture sometimes.
Texture as well. So Alexis, thank you so much. Alexis just made a $10 donation for Giving Tuesday. Thank you so much, Alexis. We really appreciate your support. For people joining us today, it's Giving Tuesday. I have an autism nonprofit, and your support means the world. There's a link in the comments, makingadifference.org/donate. Every little bit helps, especially during this holiday season.
I just wanted to say something about the donations. Kerry and I just went away, actually, in order to, Kerry has a scholarship program. And as he said, he's given over 130 scholarships, but we had 132 applicants this year. And it's a daunting process to try to go through that many scholarship applications. But the thing I want to give to the mothers and the fathers and to the caregivers and to the grandparents is, can you imagine having 132 kids that would apply? 20 years ago, or when Kerry started the program 10 years ago, we got 4 or 5, 12 applications a year. Now we have 132 kids applying, and it's like, it shows you that there's a bigger prevalence of autism out there, but there's also a lot more hope because a lot of those kids are getting through college also. So, so it's one step forward, but I just wanted to point that out because I'm still overwhelmed about this. And that's why every dollar does count, because it gives us more opportunity to get that money back out to the children, young adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a great transition. As part of our scholarship program, we actually came out with a book 2 years ago called Autistics on Autism, where we actually got to highlight 100 of our scholarship applicants' essays to discuss a little bit more about their autism journeys, what helped them growing up to the point where they are today in adulthood, pursuing post-secondary education, where 100% of the proceeds from this book that's available to check out on Amazon go back to our nonprofit organizations. So if you're also looking for a little incentive for your donations for this year, feel free to grab a copy of my book, Autistics on Autism, as well for this holiday season. So we have a question that came in from Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Did your experience with autism change as you became a teenager? What was your biggest struggles as you became a teen and into your high school years? I think one of the biggest challenges, Lisa, was just puberty. I mean, it was a time where there were so many different sensations I was having for the first time. And it definitely did lead to some challenging behaviors. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that we need to encourage in our teens is helping them build on self-motivation. Temple Grandin has a great quote where she says, interests and talents can turn into careers. She's a dear friend. I actually was texting her yesterday. Mom, I actually wanted to tell you about this later. I started texting her. She's on a book tour right now for a new book that she's coming out with. But in any case, one of the things that I say is that while token systems are great, we also need to help transition at some point to help build these kids through self-motivation. And there's some ways you could do that. Peer mentoring is a great way. Asking your school to provide one of your children with a peer mentor, not only to help them self-advocate for themselves, but also to encourage them to look up to somebody that they might potentially have similar interests to, who they could potentially be at one point in their lives. Mom, what were some things that I had challenges with as a teenager?
Getting to school, since you went to school 40 minutes from your house. So, I mean, it was still the same. It was making friends. When you were in an out of district school, you weren't in your hometown. And although you did develop friends at school, then you were back home and you really still had challenges with social relationships. I think high school is a great time. Middle school I found more challenging. Middle school is when kids really have a lot of challenges, and then when you get into high school, it's a different setup. And young kids seem to get into more routine. Your outlets, though, were sports and theater, which was amazing since you didn't really want to talk. To think that you would have gotten so involved in theater, but any kind of group activity, even chess for for high school kids is great. Something they can do, like if they don't only want to do something with one or two people, chess, bowling, very good. Everybody can do those things, and then just sports really seem to help you along. So those were good.
Great. Great comment. So we have Nunu, thank you so much for the donation. It really means a lot that so many of you have considered even making a small donation to support our nonprofit. It really means the world. For those who are just joining us, I do have an autism nonprofit. Today is Giving Tuesday, and kfmmakingdifference.org/donate. Every little bit helps, especially during the holiday season. Renee writes, I would be more interested in more info about introducing new foods and how to go all about that. Thank you. Yeah, Renee, I would definitely, just in the spirit of time, definitely recommend checking out my webinar. It's just available at carriemagro.com/store, where it breaks down more into this specific topic. I know Bianca came back and she said, thank you, Sue. Sandwiches, crisps, sausages, which have been advised by a pediatrician. He's very sensory seeking and texture doesn't seem to bother him. Got it.
Well, he's got some good foods there. Carrie still eats cereal every day, so
it is.
Yeah, and
it is true.
And it was bologna sandwiches for so many years. I couldn't even tell you. I didn't even know there wasn't ever food except bologna sandwiches. So at least he's got some foods that Carrie played with for years. So I'll look forward to following up with you.
Yeah. Sandra writes, so her grandson Ridley likes several sounds around him at the same time. Examples are TV, tablets, and musical toys. Should we discourage this? Now, Sandra, there has been a lot of conversation online about the idea of limiting screen time. And I don't necessarily know if I agree 100% to that, especially if a child is not as close up to the screen as humanly possible and the lights are not as bright, because some of these screens could be very, very jarring, which can deal with some potential eye-related challenges. But I have not been somebody who's necessarily said to avoid screen time, only when it's detrimental to a child's learning in school, in addition to specific social skills
Yeah.
that they might, because I mean,
Hey,
with
Carrie.
screen time, go
Carrie,
ahead.
can I interrupt? I don't
Yeah,
think
sure.
I think she's talking about something else also though. She's saying that they like to hear things, multiple sounds at the same time. So if he's banging on a if he's banging on a clicker or something like that, he also wants another noise. He wants multiple sounds coming in. That's what he enjoys. And she's asking if that's detrimental. You can ask her if I'm reading that correctly. But she's not just talking about him spending
Right.
time on on online. She's saying that he likes multiple sources of sound, and it could be probably she's probably saying it's loud, and she's wondering if that's detrimental to his health.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, for individuals in our community, it's not the necessarily the worst thing in the world, and we often say it's a spectrum. If you met one autistic person, you met just that one autistic person. Definitely feel free to write in the comments to explain a little bit more about what your overall thoughts are on that.
Yeah, because I think what she's saying is like would be like you would be playing the drums and you would be looking for other sounds at the same time. She's saying maybe that I would think it might overstimulate him, but it would be good to get a little bit more into that question and see how we can respond.
Sure. We had a great question that came in from Alexis, and I'm just trying to go back to it just to get to as many of your questions as we can. So Alexis writes, Carrie, what advice can you give to parents about the best way to support our child through this journey? First and foremost, and again, it is a spectrum, so it's going to look different for everyone. We have people that we know who are on the spectrum who are going to need 24/7 care for their entire lives. So it is going to look different for every single person. One of the things, the first movie I ever consulted on was a film called Joyful Noise starring Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton, where one of the characters in that film had an autism diagnosis. And there was a great scene where Queen Latifah and Dexter Darden, the actor who played the autistic character, they're interacting about kind of just the whole autism diagnosis. And one of the things that he says, one of the things that Queen Latifah says is when things don't fit into a pretty little box, you build a bigger box. I think it's so important that we take, when we see these stereotypes in our community, that we try to really just focus on person-centered approaches to learning because it's going to look different for everyone. Also, continue to nurture strengths, realizing that a lot of the time in our school systems, especially 99.9% of the time, it feels like we're focused on what a child can't do. But what are we doing to nurture those strengths? Mom, what was some advice that you could give to parents out there about the best way to support a child through that journey?
Well, I think the parents who's asking that question already know the answer. You have to make sure your child know that they're loved no matter what, because children they had so it's like you just said, Gary. Children receive so much negativity, and they just they're always told, oh, you can't do this, they can't do that, and they internalize that. They believe that they're not capable, or that they're feeling belittled, and then as they get further onto school, they get bullied. So it's just really, really important for these parents who are probably already doing it, just to make sure that the children know that they are special, and that that they're unique, and that their parents love them, and they're always will be there for them. But that's not easy to say. That's something we all live with our children. So it's a day in and day out, and you and your advocates that you work with, you've been able to express back to the parents of how important you felt when you were growing up, despite all the challenges. You felt that your family and your support system supported you, and kids do acknowledge it. Maybe not for a long time, but I think you've said it a number of times. Parents really make a difference. The care system makes a difference, and I think you could talk a little bit more on how you felt or how you feel dealing with the children and the clients that you have. How do the clients that you have, how do the children with autism and the adults with autism respond to, you know, to what, how their parents supported them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that a lot of parents have told me is that they try to block out the noise that they hear from the people in the world who haven't really taken the time to get to know uh, their child. And I think that's really important. When a child is diagnosed, like so many parents have told me, it feels like deer in headlights. And it feels like a lot of the time that you're kind of in this area where you're uncertain about the future. But one of the things that you have to remember is that your child is the same child before the diagnosis as they are after the diagnosis. Hopefully, with after the diagnosis, though, they are receiving supports to help them. So always come in nurturing with love, realizing that some individuals like myself, I felt like my autism was my 9 to 5 job for so long. And you will hopefully have a child who will always know that they are loved for their entire life and happy.
I had an
Renee,
interest. I had an
oh, go ahead.
interesting conversation. I had an interesting conversation with a special ed teacher of autistic kids yesterday. She was telling me what it was like to be back because the kids had the 4 days off for the holiday, and she says she always goes back and it's always the same. She says she has the kids who for 4 days went home and they sat in front of the TV because the parents don't even talk to them, and then she has the parents who fulfill their every need. So that for the teachers who come back, you know, the day after Thanksgiving, it's always a tough day because the kids are like, you know, they're just out there somewhere. But it was an interesting observation because I think that does basically define how most parents do treat children with autism. Some of them, you know, just don't bother. They just, you know, they just don't bother to deal with them. And then the others try to do everything they can. So it was interesting listening to a teacher who's done this for many years, who's a great autism teacher. So I enjoyed the conversation yesterday.
Oh, that's amazing. So Sandra writes, thank you. I'm so happy to give a donation. Sandra, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. You can give a donation at kfmmakingadifference.org/donate. I included a link in the description and in the chat as well. So we had a question coming in from Holly. Hey, Holly. Holly writes, what was the process like for you beginning to talking? My son is almost 5, nonverbal. He's starting to sound out beginning letter sounds. He communicates through an AAC device. Holly, first and foremost, I love AAC. One of the things that I would definitely recommend if you haven't looked at it already is Proloquo to Go. It's a phenomenal program that's supporting a lot of autistic children in their process of communication. The process for me beginning to talk was I didn't start speaking complete sentences until I was about 7. There were a lot of encouraging things that my parents did for me, like getting me involved with music as a way of encouraging sounds. Even though I was not speaking, I always had sounds. So it's really important that you encourage sounds, that you also try to find play dates for your child where they can potentially interact with somebody who has similar communication to them. Because if they're around adults the entire time, especially adults who might not meet your child where they are, it might be difficult for them to encourage that speech. Also, taking about 15 to 20 seconds before asking your child another question to give them time to process the specific question that you're asking of them as well. Mom, what would you say to this question?
It may sound, you know, everybody tries everything and, you know, something works. We did Hooked on Phonics, and I don't think people talk about that much, but Carrie liked to be rewarded. And so like we would do like a page of Hooked on Phonics every day. And then what would be the reward? A sticker. And Carrie just loved rewards. So I found that for him, he would try harder to sound out the word or sound out the letter because he got the sticker, that would be a good thing. And then when he got like 25 stickers, he got an action figure or something like that. We really worked hard on reward systems, but it was because it worked for him. It just worked for him. And you have to find something that works for your child. But again, I'm thrilled that your child has sound. That's a very good sign, and I'm very, very happy that they're using a communication device, because that allows them to communicate with you. And let's hope that the rest follows.
Got it. We had somebody give a donation. Thank you so much. This wasn't actually during the live, but we appreciate everyone who's given today on Giving Tuesday. For those who are just, go ahead.
Yeah, I just also want to say we do this on non-donation days also. Kerry will have us up to do parent things that just happen to be Giving Tuesday, and so we decided to do it this way today. But we won't always be asking you for donation.
Yeah. Hey, Adriana. Adriana writes, my 3-year-old son says mama and daddy mainly, as opposed to other words he should use. Is he considered nonverbal or speech delayed, keeping in mind that his older brother has ADHD? Not nonverbal. Minimally speaking would be a way of kind of
Speech
breaking
delayed.
that down.
Yeah. No, I mean, if he says mommy and daddy, he has speech. I mean, so I mean, he does have speech. I think I don't know if he had early intervention, but I think you would find him speech delayed, because just like everything else, when you're 5, you're supposed to have so many words, and when you're 3, you're supposed to have so many words. I would consider that speech delayed. And ADHD has absolutely no. At least I don't know of anything with ADHD that is impacted by speech, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I think they're on a different signs and symptoms and opportunities, but I've never heard of a speech delay being tied into ADHD. Have you, Kerry?
Yeah.
Have you?
I haven't at this point. Adriana also wrote he's in preschool now.
Good.
Nunu says, would you please have a look at this question? Nunu, I apologize. Let me see where your question is. Okay. Nunu writes, did you ever have to deal with bullying in school? Do you have any friends? Were you sad for not having friends in school in kindergarten, or you didn't care? I dealt with a lot of bullying in school, Nunu, and a lot of it was just because I was limited in communication compared to some of my peers. I was also a big kid until I was about 15 and lost 60 pounds so I could play high school basketball. So I would be called fat, and I would have a lot of challenges. I think one of the things that I also had challenges with was that I would befriend bullies, because even though I was receiving negative attention, it was some form of attention. I speak all year round as a professional speaker. So I speak in schools on bullying prevention. So if you would like me to potentially speak at your son's school, I'll also include a link in the comments. I speak in person and virtually. And we've had a lot of success with virtual assemblies where we've taught students about the importance of being kind. The fact is that those with disabilities are twice as likely to be bullied compared to their non-disabled peers. So just in the spirit of time, it looks like we're right at 2:00 now. Jen Scanlon just joined us. Hey, Jen. Jen is one of our volunteers at our Autism and Sensory Friendly Santa event every year. And then finally, just Alexis wrote, will this be saved? Yes. So it will live on my Facebook page, Carrie's Autism Journey, for all of you to watch. So again, thank you all so much for joining us today. I would like to give a very special shout out to my mom for joining as well. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to write them in the comments, and I'll be moderating and try to get back to as many of your questions. And we hope to do this more often. we're really busy, especially with the holiday season, but we really appreciate so many of you joining us, especially today on Giving Tuesday. Like my mom said, we've actually done these Facebook Lives, not on Giving Tuesday. It was just a time that we both had free in our schedules, and also wanted to support our autism nonprofit. So if you learned something new today, feel free. We included an information on how you could give back, and every little bit counts, especially during the holiday season. Mom, any final thoughts before we sign off today?
No, it's just very, I'm trying to say welcome, Jen, for coming. And it's just nice to have you all here. I told my boss that I was doing a lunch and learn for Giving Tuesday. And it was very, very nice to meet you all and to learn what you're doing. Carrie's name of this program is Carrie's Autism Journey, but it's everyone's journey in the autistic community. So it was fun to be with you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.